Learn how to recreate the Instagram logo for educational purposes. In this video, you will learn the basics in Adobe Photoshop, thinking about how to create shapes, use layers, alter shapes, add fill color, and use the text tool. I hope you enjoy it. Firstly, make sure you have opened Adobe Photoshop and then press Create New on the left-hand side here. Now, there's lots of different sizes to choose from. We are going to create a print version of our Instagram logo. So we're going to go to the print tab along the top here. And then under the presets, you can choose A4. We're going to make it smaller later, but just so we've got a standard document size to work with. But we're going to make it landscape over here on the right hand side by clicking on this button here. We want it nice and high resolution, so we're keeping it 300 pixels per inch, which means it'll be really nice and clear in terms of the colour. And then we just press create. And there we've got our blank canvas. And you can see here the background layer on the right hand side. Layers are fundamental in Photoshop, and everything you do goes on a new layer, and it's really important you name your layers. So the first thing we're going to do is create the first basic shape in the Instagram logo, which, as you know, if we look back at this, is roughly a square with some rounded corners. So we're going to learn how to create a shape on a new layer. So we're going to press this button down here in the layers panel, which is the plus button. If you can't see this toolbar here, it might be that it's right down the bottom here, and all you've got to do is double click to get it up so you can see all your layers. Anyway, create a new layer. There we go. It says layer 1. And I'm going to create my first square. So I'm going to click and hold over here. Yours will probably look like this. And it's a rectangle tool. It's the first one on the list. So all of these toolbars, all of these tools in these toolbars do different things. And if it's got this tiny little triangle there on the edge of the tool, that means there's extra options. So when I click and hold, I can see all the different shapes. But I want the rectangle tool, so I'm going to choose that one there. And I'm just simply going to draw out a rectangle, probably in a sort of square shape. There we go. What should happen when you draw out your shape is your properties toolbar will pop out to try and help you change the properties of it. And this is what we want. So if you scroll down under where it says appearance in this properties tab, you've got here 0 pixels and 0 pixels for the edges here. Can you see that? And when I hover over this, it allows me to click and drag and take the amount of pixels up or down. And if you see that, look what's happening on the actual screen. The corners are changing to be more rounded. So I'll probably leave it about that, roughly. And the other side should be the same. There we go. So I'm quite happy with that. So I'm going to minimize my toolbar by pressing this button. And now I want to change the properties of this to make it kind of a pinky color for the base square. So I need to look at this toolbar at the top here. So the key thing to Photoshop, anything on the left hand side, whichever tool you've got selected, the properties of it will appear at the top here. And this is the easiest place to do things from. So I'm going to go to my fill and I'm going to choose a nice bright pink colour. So I'm going to click, if you missed that, I'm going to click on this button here and that allows me to choose my colour picker. I'm going to choose something here and then decide probably there. Press OK and that turns it a nice very bright pink. I also want the stroke to be the same colour. So the stroke is the outline of the shape. So you can see at the moment, well, you can't really see it because it's white and it merges with the black background. But if I click on the stroke, if I was to change it, I don't know, to black, you can see there's now an outline. But I want it the same colour as my main shape. So I've picked the pink because I've recently used it. It's already there. So now if I click back on here, look, my fill and my stroke are the same colour. So I'm happy with that. That's great. I'm going to press enter. And there I've got my first basic shape for my Instagram logo. I'm now going to continue doing the same thing for my next shape. So if I go back and have a look at the Instagram logo, I can see my second shape here is this white square shape. So I am going to create a new layer in Photoshop again. So I'm going to go press the plus button here. And then I'm going to choose another rectangle. And I'm going to draw another rectangle inside this one. Roughly there. I'm going to do the same thing again. So I'm going to change the pixels this time. Probably not as many as before. So probably more like that because it's further in. That's roughly right. But this time what I want to do is have no fill, but I want to make the stroke white and I want to make it really wide. So I'm going to, oh, it is on a new and a current. There we go. It's already on white as it tells me up there. And then I'm going to just make that thicker like that. Probably a bit too thick. Let's take that down a bit, maybe to about there. There we go. I'm happy with that. I'm going to press enter. That's looking good already. What I might want to do now is rename my layers just to make sure that I know which layer is which. I mean, I know I can see it, but the white one's quite difficult to read. So what I could do is I can double click on the layer name here. Instead of calling it rectangle 1, I could call it pink rectangle background. And on rectangle 2, I could call that white rectangle inside, just so I know what it is, and it's then easily recognizable if I need to change it. Because one of the rules in Photoshop is that whatever I'm working on, I have to click on the layer, otherwise it won't work. So say for example, I've just finished editing this one. I'm very happy with my white rectangle and I want to change my pink one. I'd have to click on the pink rectangle background here to enable me to do anything to the pink one here. So say I wanted to use the transform tool, which is Control and T. It's Control on the keyboard, which is CTRL and T. And that allows me to then make that smaller or bigger in any way. Don't like that, so I'm just going to take that back a bit. But the point is I have to click on the layer that I want to change in order for any tools to work. Very important rule in Photoshop. So I think actually I'm going to make the stroke on that second white rectangle inside a bit thicker because I think it's a bit too thin. So the stroke, remember, is the outline. So I'm just going to click on that, make that slightly thicker. There we go. I'm happy with that now. And I'm going to press enter because I'm happy with that. I'm also going to click on my move tool just to come off the tool that I was on at the moment. You've probably guessed what I'm going to do next. I'm going to create another new layer with my inside circle. So I'm going to press the new layer button down here. I'm going to actually name it to start with, I think. And I'm going to call this inside circle. There we go. And I'm going to click and hold on the rectangle shape over here, and I get my what we call the ellipse tool, and that is basically like an oval. I can create it into a circle, so I can just click and drag. There we go, that's roughly in the middle. And this time I don't want the properties up there. I want to make the stroke of this thicker, probably about there. There we go, I'm happy with that. And I'm going to do the same thing again with a little circle up here. I'm going to press the plus button. I'm going to call this the small circle. I'm again going to choose the ellipse. I'm going to do it about here. But this time I want to fill it white as well as have the stroke white. There we go. That's great. So I'm happy with my basic logo so far. So what I've done so far is create shapes, name my layers, and alter the shapes so that they suit the Instagram logo shape. Obviously it's not going to be perfect, but I've got it fairly similar so far. So what I need to do now is add my fill colour and add on the Instagram name as well underneath using the text tool. So let's have a look at how we add fill colour. So at the moment I've got a bright pink Instagram logo, which obviously is not reflective of the real Instagram logo, which looks like this. So I've got to somehow get a blue and purpley colour in here and like an orangey yellow colour in here. Okay, there's many ways I can do this. I'm going to show you a couple of ways to achieve this. The first way is using the gradient tool. So over here we see we've got the gradient tool. Okay. But before I actually use it, I have to create something called a clipping mask. And I have to be clicked on the correct layer. So I'm going to click on my pink rectangle background here. And I want to create a new layer above it. So I'm going to press the layer button. And then where it says layer 1, just here, I'm going to right click with my mouse and choose create clipping mask. And if you see, it's put a little arrow here, and that basically affects what is below it, even if it's transparent. So we're going to create a gradient clipping mask. So you'll see the next things I do will appear in this area here when I draw it on the screen, and that affects what's underneath it. So let's use the gradient. I've got my gradient tool over here. And then up here in the gradient toolbar, properties toolbar, I'm going to click on the drop down. And if your folders are all collapsed and it looks like this, all you need to do is click on the basics. I want you to choose this middle one, because that means we're going from a colour to a transparent. And that transparent is recognised by those grey and white squares there. So we're going to choose that one there. That's great. Now all I need to do is go over here and choose my top colour, which if we look back at this is kind of a purpley blue. So I'm going to go for maybe slightly lighter like that. And then I simply click and hold the mouse like that to get a line up. And I say I want it to about there maybe, and you can see it starts to give me a gradient, so going from a darker to a lighter colour wherever I draw out my line like that. Now that's fairly realistic if I look at it compared to the one in PowerPoint. Fairly realistic. If I want to be more realistic, I probably want another bit of blue in the top left. Maybe not that blue, maybe that kind of colour blue, and I probably want it about there. There we go. Slightly bluer maybe. You get the idea. You can create your own gradient. So that's one way of doing it, and you can do that in the bottom left hand corner as well if you want to, with the orange and the kind of lighter orange colours. So I can use this chart over here. I can go down and get a kind of reddy orange. It's quite hard to get the right colour. Probably something like that, and I can move it up like this, quite like that. That's nice. And then I'm going to go and get my lighter colour, maybe like that, and go in like this. There we go. That's a great way to do it. I can use the brush tool to do this as well. So if you want to, you could use the brush tool, change your brush up here to like a soft round brush, and change the size of the brush, and you could kind of dot the colour in like this if you wanted to. But you've got to be careful on that, you don't get too much of a hard edge. I'm not that keen on that, so I'm going to undo that. And if you don't know how to undo something, you can use either Control and Z on the keyboard, or you can go up here and there's this history panel. And you can, if you look here, take it back. And if you can see on the screen, it's getting rid of the brush tools that I've just done there. This is not infinite, however. It can only go back a certain amount of clicks. So I'm going to take it back to the original one that I had there because I like that. But that's a useful tool as well. So I'm quite happy with this now. I can see over here I've got all my layers that are named. There's my clipping mask I was talking about earlier that affects that one there. If I was really going into detail, I would probably, if I looked at the original Instagram logo, realise that I probably want a bit of purple over here maybe to get rid of the less vibrant pink. So I might just add a tiny bit in there, but not too much. So let's add a bit of a gradient in there. There we go. I think that's a bit more realistic. So I'm now happy with the colours of that if I compare it to the real one. So as you can see, it's really easy to build up a very simple designed logo quite quickly in Photoshop. The last thing I'm going to show you as part of this Instagram logo is how to add the text in. Now you could of course just use the logo as it is without the name of the company underneath it, and it's instantly recognizable. However, it's really important to learn how to use the text tool in Photoshop. So let's learn how to do that. So first of all, we need to create a new layer, but we're going to click on the very last layer we did at the top here, which was your small circle layer. We're going to press the plus button, and then we're going to use the text tool over here and the horizontal type tool. Now when I click on here and start as if I'm going to type, it puts up some weird words. They are not weird, they are Latin. So don't worry about if those come up when you click on the text tool. That's just to show you the style of the writing. Now, if I look on the toolbar at the top here, because I'm on the text tool, my properties have changed to the text up here. I have got lots and lots and lots and lots of fonts to choose from. So I want to choose something which I think is fairly similar to the Instagram text. It's going to be quite hard to find because I'm not. Instagram have designed their own text basically for their logo, but I'm sure I can find something fairly similar to use. At the moment, this is really just to show you how it actually works. Let me just choose this one for now, and I'm going to type the word Instagram. Nice. And of course I'm going to highlight it and change the text color to black. So again, I look up in the properties, there's my color, so I'm going to click on there and I'm going to change it to black by clicking just down here in the colors. Press OK. I've got a bit of a problem because it's not in the middle of the page, it's not in the middle of the logo. So this is where I use my move tool, and making sure I'm on my text layer over here, I then move that into the middle, and it's being really helpful. Can you see it's giving me these lines that keep appearing? This is to show me where it is in relation to the image. So if I move it there, you can see there's a pink line that goes directly into the middle of the image, which is basically my guide to show me where it is and if it's in line. So I'm going to let go now of my mouse, and there we have it. I have my Instagram logo. I might actually want to make that text a bit bigger, so I'm going to double click on it and just change the font size. You don't have to just go up to 72. I could, if I wanted to, go up to, I don't know, 150. Wouldn't be appropriate because it wouldn't fit. However, I don't have to stick what is on the drop down list here. So I'm actually going to take it up to 70, I think. Press enter. There we go, I'm happy with that. When I use my move tool, I can again move my text around slightly. So I'm going to put that there like that. Great. So there is my finished Instagram logo. The last thing I'm going to show you is how to get rid of the white background so that you can then save it as a picture that you could use in any document. This is a really important skill because imagine you had a company and you wanted to put your logo on, I don't know, a t-shirt design or a bag or a trainer. You have to have the logo on a clear background to be able to put it on other particular items. So over here in our layers panel, if we go down here, where it says background and it's got a padlock, if you unclick the padlock, you'll see you can now edit this layer, and we literally want to delete layer 0 here at the bottom. So there's my little dustbin here. I'm just going to press the dustbin. Do I want to delete the layer 0? Yes, I do. And exactly that is meant to happen. I've got a clear background here, and I know that because it's just showing me it's transparent by these little grey and white squares. The last thing I want to do is crop it before I save it, because I don't want all this extra space around the outside. It's just unnecessary. So I'm going to use this crop tool here, and you can see I've got these markers up on the side of my page on my canvas. So I'm just going to do that and bring it in as close as I dare. There we go. And then when I'm happy with that, I'm going to press this tick up here, or I can just press enter on the keyboard. And there is my final logo at an appropriate size. So I'm going to go File and Save As. And I'm going to press Save on your computer. And I'm going to put it inside a sensible folder. So this is my final Instagram logo. So I'm just going to call mine Insta logo final. And I'm saving it as a Photoshop document in case I want to edit it again later. And then I press OK. But I do want to export this as a PNG file, which enables me to use the transparent background to be able to then put this on other documents or other products. So I'm going to go File and do an export, and a quick export as a PNG. And again, I'm going to put it inside a Sensible folder. When I say a Sensible folder, I've got lots of folders. You basically need to make sure that you choose your OneDrive, okay, and then go to the folder that is most suitable for you. If you don't have a folder, just give it a sensible name. So I'm going to call my instant logo final to use, because that's the one I want to use in other products. Press save, and there we have it. So let me show you why that is so important. This is not something you now need to do. This is just so you understand why that process of exporting it as a PNG was important. If I was, for example, to create a poster, let's go print and make a A4 poster here. Press create. There it is. And imagine this is for, I don't know, a window cleaning business that uses Instagram for publicity. I might have an advert at the top here saying window cleaning. Come and get your windows cleaned. See our results on Instagram. And then there might be the logo of Instagram. So I would literally go File, Place Embedded, and my final Instagram logo that I saved to use. Here it is, that one there. Press Place, and it pops it in there. And it means that whatever background is behind it, the fact that I don't have any background on my Instagram logo is not an issue, because it goes behind on the colour of whatever the page is. So when I press enter, it's then there, and then I can just move it around as a logo if I want to. I could just make that a much smaller, you see. And it's also scalable, as you can see there, which makes it, that means I can make it larger and smaller. And it means if I was to, for example, click on this padlock here and, I don't know, change the colour of my background by, for example, adding in a nice bright colour, let's say a nice blue, you can see here automatically, let's just move that over slightly, that the Instagram logo you can still see around it, and you can still see the colour in between the text, because I saved it as a transparent background and exported it as a PNG. If I just kept it in the original form, I'd have a white outline, which I just don't want. So that's why it's really important to export anything you do like that as a PNG to be able to use it in other products. I hope you've enjoyed this, and you can see how easy it is to create a very simple logo in Photoshop using basic shapes and basic colour and gradients.